Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Elevation Cast. Today I'm joined by Lucy from Simplex Accounting, who are an accountancy firm based in the Isle of Wight, although service clients all over the mainland of the UK. They pride themselves in their personal customer service and a no-nonsense approach to accountancy. So Lucy, if you could please give us an introduction to yourself, a little bit of a background about Simplex, where the idea stemmed from, and the journey that you've been on over this last few years. Yeah, that's all
Thanks,
good.
Aidan. So, yeah, basically, we started really from nothing. So, we actually began when I was made redundant from my finance job. So, I went through the process of working for like big accountancy practices, also local practices, and then also larger sort of beauty brands and things like that. And I was made redundant from like my financial compliance job. And I just thought, what am I going to do? So I started doing bookkeeping and then slowly, within 4 days of actually leaving my job, I got my practicing license. So I thought, right, well, I can start taking on more now. So I started sort of helping people with their bookkeeping and their accounts and their tax returns. And then slowly, like the word started spreading, and we went from a bookkeeping firm, which we were called Isle Bookkeep, sort of local bookkeeping practice based on the Isle of Wight. It was like a play on words. To, oh, okay, we can actually service anyone from anywhere, and we're actually doing things quite differently. We started sort of from actually a side of paper. We used to deal with people who dealt with paper a lot. Literally people would come to my house with bags of paper. And then it slowly started to transition when we started helping people take their paper mess and make it paperless. So we started doing that, and it very much became the point where other people were getting onto that. People were already paperless or becoming paperless quite quickly. And we found that we really liked people who were paperless and just had that mindset of wanting to be paperless. Fast forward to today, that we started the practice just over 4 years ago now. Fast forward to today, we're a team of 3, so we're still pretty small, but yeah, we now take on clients. We don't even deal with people who deal with paper at all. We're just completely remote, paperless. My team can be here, there, and everywhere, so they can work from wherever they like. They don't have to be based here on the Isle of Wight. So one of my team members is based in Cambridge. And yeah, we work with clients all across the UK. We've just sort of been slowly growing and slowly focusing more on sort of the technology side of things and making sure that people's apps are talking to each other and that their accounting is like all up to date. So that's a little
Amazing.
bit about what we do.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, it's great to hear the background, because I think a lot of people that start out in business come from a place of adversity where potentially, they've been made redundant, or they've lost a job, or they're kind of going through a bit of a tough time, and they're not too sure where to go. They don't know where
Yeah.
their passion is. They don't know if they want to go and get another job. And I think they start out in business just not knowing what to expect. And I think that is the case for a lot of business owners. We never know what we're walking into, and you can never predict what's going to happen. You just kind of have to take each day as it comes. I don't think any business owner has known 100% the path that they're on, and they know exactly what they need to do, and they do just that. I think a lot of people go in and it is just about being relentless and having that tenacity to kind of not give up. And there's hurdles that come day after day, and it's just about getting over that hurdle and waiting for the next one essentially to come. It's brilliant to kind of hear that out of a really tough time, this fantastic business has been born and evolved over the years, and now it's something that I'm sure you're really proud of.
It definitely was from a hard time because obviously, well, we'd just gone through, I believe it was at the end of COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were all sort of just going back to the office. I thought I was going to be an employee for the rest of my life. Didn't really have these I had aspirations, but it was more to work my way up the ladder, be on a good salary.
Yeah.
But I never really thought, I'll do it. I'll go out on my own. I'll do do that at all. You know, at the time I was still studying.
Yeah.
I only just really finished my studying, finished my last exam literally, and it
Wow.
all just sort of fell into place.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes there is a strange fate to how these things happen, isn't there?
Yeah.
So amazing. So accountancy.
Yes.
Obviously, it is an ever-changing landscape, and with annual updates and changes in practice and legislation, but also within technology and technological advancements and accountancy as an industry is often, I've found, kind of at the forefront of that. It's a lot of these that new technologies that come in. Accountancy often adapts them quickest, you know, in terms of the cloud-based software such as Xero, which are just almost kind of a given these days. As soon as you think of accountancy, you often think of things like Xero or QuickBooks. But it is cloud-based. And I think that they arguably probably one of the first to move to a system that is cloud-based. And I find that, you know, that is quite synonymous with accountancy over the decades, really. How have you kind of found, or how do you keep your finger on the pulse? You know, what kind of technologies do you use and platforms, and are there any that you try to look at, and is it something that you guys spend a lot of time on?
Yeah, I think for me, as the sort of business owner, I'm always looking for like the next best thing, the next thing that we can stay ahead for our clients. Yeah, there's always new technologies coming out. We always want the more the better, because then the more competition, and you know, they all are competing against each other trying to be the best, which is really good for us. And it's just about trying to get there so that we can help our clients. So if we can free up our time to work on more important things, or if we can free up the client's time and help them get information to us quicker, then it's always a win. So for me, I'm always trying to look for, is there another software that's better than what we're currently doing? And normally we would use the best software out there. It's dependent on loads of things, including sort of integrations and things like that. But yeah, it's trying to make it all talk to each other and become as efficient as possible. Because yeah, then we can get into more conversations, we free up our time, we can actually talk about the real stuff that matters, and actually make quite a big difference when we're doing less of the day-to-day bookkeeping and sort of churning out the numbers.
Yeah, definitely, because I think that's the misconception, is a lot of people just look at accountancy as, you know, bookkeeping and submitting tax returns and things like that, but it is arguably the most important element of a business is knowing the numbers, knowing the metrics, and is the
100%.
absolute fundamentals of business is your metrics and knowing your simple costs and, you know, cost of acquisition, cost of sale, etc. And it's also then, once you know those, it's, well, how do you then forecast for the future? Where is financially, where is the business heading? No one has, no, I would argue that no business has a consistent turnover, you know, every single month being the same, or, you know, growing at the same rate. There's often peaks and troughs throughout the year. And I think, again, that people that are quite new to business, that is one of the biggest pitfalls that they can often fall into, is the fact that when they're starting to grow, they start to see money coming in, but they're not ready for those dips, those months where naturally turnover does drop down, your Januaries and Februaries, for example. Yeah, depending on what it is that you're doing, obviously, there's always times throughout the year where turnover drops, and it's like, right, well, how do you forecast for that? And I think a lot of people don't realise, and there's that's exactly what accountants are there for. So if they've got more time to help with these forecasts, you know, you're going to find business a lot easier.
100%. I mean, cash flow forecasts are so important. And it is one of those things, when people get more money in or they see more money in the bank, they think that's their money and they can just take out the money, or that's fine, we've got that amount of money in the bank. But actually, as you grow, there's different problems that they have. Maybe they've gone VAT registered, and maybe they then need to start saving some of that money aside. And that's when it's a bit of a mindset shift, instead of just, oh, well, that money in the bank is mine, and oh, it's never been that big before. Well, now actually, no, we've got other responsibilities that we need to start preparing and saving for. So that's where we come in with sort of tax pots and things like that, to try and really get clear on what is the actual money left over. And a a lot of the time that is the one thing that really does affect businesses. It's the cash flow.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. It is the biggest killer of new businesses that are just trying to get started, because I think a lot of people can underestimate how much in reserve you do need. There's often times where people will have a budget for whatever it is that they need to do to get started, but then they don't budget what they're going to need to help cover costs for the first sort of 6 to 12 months, because there always needs to be a bit of a contingency fund.
Yeah.
Do you find that business owners can get themselves tied up quite easily with cash at the minute and cash flow?
Yeah, massively. I think it is just that mindset shift of, even so, for instance, with VAT, it's just me even stating to them the money that came in originally that you think is sales, that you think is great, money in my bank, part of that money wasn't yours. And even just saying that, people say, what? That was my money. No, it actually wasn't yours. You collected 20%, remember? You put it on your... And then it's just saying, so that money that you've collected for somebody else, you know, for HMRC, if we put it aside? Oh, well, no. Okay. Getting into the habit of that, because otherwise it can very quickly creep up on you. And you can imagine you've got different quarters, things are staggered, different things happen, you know, maybe, especially if people are working with accountants who are a little bit older school, they might not receive the tax bill until, you know, they do the corporation tax return, and the tax bill, okay, that's due in a few days. There's nothing worse than that panic of, what? I wasn't expecting that. So for us, it's all about preparing as we go along, saving every single month, putting that money aside, but then getting the return submitted as soon as possible. We have the exact figure then, and it's just, I think with business, everything is about being prepared, being as organised as we can. These things shouldn't be a big shock or a big surprise. It's just, right, if we can, because there will be shocks, there will be surprises, there will be things that we didn't expect. One of our biggest clients will suddenly leave. Like, these things happen in business. But if we can do our best to mitigate that, and you can tell I'm into risk mitigation, but if we do our best to mitigate that and actually say, well, we know the VAT is there and we know corporation tax is this, we can start to at least prepare for it and be as prepared as we possibly can. And as you say, then we can build a contingency around our staff or around other things that are going on in the business.
Definitely, 100%. So, just talking about industry trends. Now, obviously, there's a lot of changes, especially within this year, around accountancy, more so around national insurance increases, minimum wage increases, rates increases, all sorts. What are you finding people are struggling with most at the minute? What is the biggest kind of struggle for most people accountancy wise?
There's a lot of different struggles depending on who you talk to. You definitely find there's the smaller businesses, sort of the more medium businesses, that are being affected by sort of national insurance. The smaller ones are normally okay because there's employment allowance that sort of covers that. But just in general, I think with the increase of national minimum wage, this can be really difficult for business owners. You know, for a lot of them, it is really difficult and they're having to make more difficult decisions. Obviously, there's new advancements in AI. I know there's the big discussions around AI going to take our jobs and all these different things. So there's a lot going on around sort of employing people and whether people can afford that sort of going forward. I think it makes people sort of go back to the drawing board and really think, right, how are we going to afford this and is it profitable? Because if it wasn't initially profitable, now it definitely is going to make it harder.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something. But there's changes constantly in the industry, just around so many different things that affect my clients in loads of different areas. Whether we're talking self-employed side are coming to me a lot around making tax digital, or whether that's new legal procedures going on with Companies House for limited companies. It's all a bit sort of up in the air. People panic about it. But a lot of the changes, in my opinion, are quite positive still. They're just different and it's just more work and more stuff. But yeah.
Because that must it must be something you've kind of really got to keep on top of. I know there's every industry. going to have change, but I certainly feel that, especially with accountancy, there just seems to be so many different areas that could change, from different taxation laws to minimum wage increases, all sorts really. I think the biggest one for me is, well, not the biggest one for me, but the whole making tax digital for self-employed and freelancers stuff. That's going to be a really big shift next year. Have you had much thought on how you're going to kind of tackle it, and what is the plan of action? Because that's surely a lot more workload for you and for any clients that are self-employed. What does that
Yeah,
mean?
it's a lot more work, and we do have a plan. I think we even did it back in, I want to say 2019. It was a long time ago whenever we did it. Basically, we started the beta program through zero. So we've already been testing it with clients on a basis where we're actually sending that information to HMRC. So for me, it was really important, sort of as soon as I heard about it, to get straight onto it, because there's nothing worse than resisting change and thinking, no, I don't want this to happen. So although it has been postponed a few times and moved back, it's looking like next year it is going to happen. And I think it's really easy to say, oh, I hope it gets postponed again, or we'll deal with that when we get there. But I think for me, I always try and approach it by just getting involved as soon as I can, getting a client at least to work through the process, see what it's going to look like. See what it's going to look like from a client fee side of things. That's really important that we have all that mapped out. We know what it's going to look like for us as a business going forward. But the part I always sort of really focus on is the support side of things, because as a client, it's very easy to suddenly panic, not know what's going on, sort of jump up and down a little bit and think, oh my goodness, nobody knows what to do. So I try to have the answers when somebody comes to me of, okay, this is what's happening, this is when it will affect you. And yeah, just give them a clear understanding of, right, this will be the price difference because we have quite a lot more work to do. And yeah, just going from there is like the walkthrough of the process for them. I think it makes me realise as well how the way I've run the business so far has always been very focused on good communication between us, constant check-ins quarterly anyway. So it fits in really nicely with the business model really, because we're going to have to be doing this quarterly. We've got them into some really good habits. So it's just keeping on top of that and saying, right, actually not a lot changes. We just need to get your signature a little bit more often and,
Yeah,
things like that. So yeah, it's just being ahead with all of these changes.
100%. So, are HMRC expecting quarterly payments a little bit like VAT returns as well, or how is that working? Do they still do an end of year, or?
They haven't said anything about that at the moment, as far as I'm aware, but everyone asks the intentions of HMRC. I'm not HMRC, I don't know what they're intending to do,
Yeah.
but it could well be that they do go down that route, and that's sort of what they're preparing us for. But yeah, we're not sure at the moment, but it does look that way.
Right. Cool. Good to know. So, delving a little bit deeper into Simplex and you guys, and as the business owner, obviously something as all business owners, we've got to wear multiple different hats, and you've got to try and find that balance of working on the business as well as working in the business, and it can often be quite difficult. But do you kind of sit back? Do you take the time to plan what you want the next few years to look like? Have you got some goals and aspirations for Simplex over the next 3 to 5 years, or are you kind of taking it each month as it comes?
A good question. We do have goals and we do plan well in advance. It's not something as simple as, right, we want to get to X amount of clients or anything like that, because it does depend, and it's not always about the number of clients, it's actually about the quality of the clients or the right clients for us. So there's all sorts of different things into play, but we definitely do plan ahead. We always have big goals to sort of grow the team. We sort of discuss that in our conversations with the team. So yeah, we do definitely have plans. It's just taking it a month at a time really, because as you know, business is up and down, there's lots of changes. But yeah, I think that's what sort of keeps me going in terms of the challenges, because actually if you were in some areas you could get quite bored, you don't have much of a challenge. Whereas things are changing constantly and you're very on top of it. You have to, the mission is when the budget comes out, you want to be ahead of it for your clients. So you're watching it the second your clients are watching it, and you're regurgitating it and changing it into a jargon-free way that you can understand in about 100 different areas. So yeah, for me, it's just about making sure that the time I spend on the business is always for my clients. It's to deliver more for them, to just to help them sort of learn more and understand more, but only the bits they need. That's
Yeah,
really
of course, that is, that is a common
not to
thing.
overwhelm.
That's it. It's business owners just want to be able to understand. I think that's where some accountants in the past have maybe got it wrong. They kind of feel that, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but there's some accountants that maybe they feel the more the customer knows, maybe the less they'll get away with, or the more they're going to expect from the accountant. Maybe they feel it's going to cause them more work. I think there are just some accountants where, they want to send over those end of year accounts just to get the signature and not be questioned on anything, not be pulled up on anything, not to have to sit and explain certain things. So they'll either try and use a lot of jargon so that the client then doesn't want to ask any more. Yeah, they just don't want to ask any more questions. So they kind of just just leave them to it. Or they'll just avoid the conversation altogether. And I think you've got to build trust from your clients. You've got to put things in a way that they can understand and try and get them to relate to you, in one way, shape or form. But no, totally.
I think it's really good when clients ask more questions as well, though,
Yeah,
because it's for us, we're always trying to build their confidence of you can look at your own reports, you can see this, you can see that. And at first, it's really scary because a lot of them say, I don't want to look at my accounting software. And it's very much that mindset shift of, why would you not want to? This is your business. So yeah, a lot of it is to do with mindset. And I think some of those accountants had the mindset of, oh, well, if I tell people everything, they're gonna go and do it themselves. And I'm very much of
yeah.
the opinion of, if you want to do it yourself and you can do it yourself, great, go for it. But actually, I'm here for the people that a lot of the time we can't do it ourselves, or we don't want to because we're running a business.
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. So in terms of what you feel at the minute is working for you, or maybe where do you feel, what areas do you feel you maybe have some struggles in at the minute within business, or anything that you want to improve on over the next 6 months, whether that be organization for the clients, or maybe it's marketing, maybe it's more lead generation for yourself and trying to get new clients on board? What's maybe your biggest headache at the minute within business, or an area you'd like to focus on?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, to be honest with you, we've been doing a lot in a lot of different areas. So for us, it's just trying to just move the needle. It's not so much, right, we need to ramp up marketing and it needs to be this, this, and this. But actually, we're trying to move the needle in a few different areas. So it's just making sure that we're always improving. So from my side of things, I have a lot of focus on the client side of things, what it looks like, how they can understand it. I have Ella on my team who's marketing, so we're always trying to improve, get more information out to people, educate people better. Even if they come along and sort of take all our nuggets of wisdom and use them for themselves, that's great, but it's just trying to get out there and get the message across. So for us, it's just keep moving the needle, keep improving all the time. We're all internally trying to challenge each other, even if it's our accounts assistant. Are we explaining this in a completely jargon-free way? Is there another way we could have said this? Is there a link that we could have explained this quicker to a blog, or, anything that's going to help? So, yeah, for us, it's just constantly moving the needle, making sure we're constantly improving and challenging each other. To improve, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key, isn't it? You've just, as long as you're moving forward, you're not stood still. I think businesses that stand still get complacent, and before you know it, you stand still for 6 months, and you kind of done 12 months worth of damage. You've got another 12 months to try and play catch up. So It is a common thing where, businesses kind of think they're treading water, but the reality is if you're not moving forward in some way, shape and form, that doesn't mean necessarily to have more clients, but you're not monitoring, tracking, improving, trying to do something productive,
Yeah.
you can quite easily see the wheels come off.
Oh, 100%. And for us, it's not about us saying, right, we want loads more clients. Come on, let's get all the marketing out there. Because actually, from our side of things, it's making sure we're doing it in a really sustainable way so that
Yeah,
we're not then suddenly letting down clients, turnover of clients becomes worse and then causing ourselves more problems.
yeah,
So it's about doing it in a way that's efficient and growing sustainably with the company.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So what kind of forms of marketing do you do then? You mentioned Ella, who's in the marketing. So do you guys do much on social media? How do you find managing that side of things as well? Yeah, what kind of stuff do you guys get up to?
Yes, so we do a bit of everything. We are actually going to an expo next week, so we do some in person, although most of ours is not in person. We do social media, so we're on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, everything. We're always sort of posting across there. I've got both my personal brand and the business brand, so we're always very busy. Different strategies in all different areas. We've got our YouTube channel, which is our clients quite like that, where they can just go on and, if they're not sure how to do their zero, they'll go on our zero video and watch that. So things like that sort of help. We've got construction clients who might need help with, should I purchase a van? We can pass them in that direction, and they've gone down really
Amazing.
well. So we just try to sort of get across as many platforms as possible, really, to share the message and help educate people.
Brilliant, brilliant. And do you guys do any form of kind of outreach, or do you more kind of acquire customers through word of mouth or networking, or how is it you generally find that business grows then month on month?
Yeah, personally, we don't do outreach, but yeah, from networking events, I've attended quite a few sort of different networking events, whether they're online or in person. And I found they're quite good, to be honest, because what I really, really find, and I keep coming back to in life in general, is it's who you know. And it's actually building those connections. And a lot of the time it is just that connection with one person that then leads to something else. So yeah, it's always been one of the best ways, in my opinion.
Yeah, of course, the warm, trusted leads, and it's all about building relationships. At the end of the day, people buy from people. They don't buy products and services. They buy from people, and they buy solutions to their problems. If they've got a problem, that's what they're there to do, is to try and buy a solution for that.
Yeah, it's not necessarily either the ones that you think you would get them at. So it's not like the networking events where it's all robotic and you're standing up and doing this 30-second pitch or whatever and it's all scary. Actually, some of them have just been like, I've been on a course and I've just sat there and got to know a few people, and then suddenly they become clients. So things like that, in my head, it's networking, but really, I was there to do a course, and actually, yeah.
Yeah, 100. It's a great example. I think again, it's the whole people buy from people, and relationships can be formed anywhere. I often find that I found a lot of my clients when I was out just socializing with friends and
Yeah.
going to different parties and just being introduced to different people and just getting chatting about what it is that you do. And you might only speak about business once or twice, and then you go off and enjoy the rest of your night together. And over time, that relationship kind of blossoms and ends up becoming a working one. And I think that's where a lot of the best client relationships can come from, because it is a bit more deeper rooted. It's not just business. I know that there's the age old saying that business is business, but I think that it does go deeper than that. It's all about relationships and how much you feel you connect with that individual, and how much you align in terms of ethics and morals and the respect that you have for that person.
Oh, 100%. And sometimes it's what you need as well. Sometimes it's just knowing the right people. I mean, for me, in our line of business, I always like to be able to recommend somebody. If somebody comes to me, with a certain problem, or, they need a bit of marketing help, or they need a bit of this help, or whatever it is, we're going through figures, but actually we're building a bit of a story. And that story is, oh, do we need somebody to help with this? Or do you need this person? And that's when
Yeah.
I can then say, actually, I do know some really well vetted people
Yeah, yeah.
who could be a really good fit. So that's always nice as well, because you're genuinely recommending people that you've sort of worked with.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. Brilliant. Okay, sorry, I'm going to have a quick check over some of the last questions. So, obviously, as the business owner, you mentioned already, obviously, you wear many hats. What kind of area of the business do you feel is the most important for you to focus on, and what is it you kind of delegate out to others?
Good question. For me, I normally am focused on like the client side of things, so what it's looking like. Mainly because I think, if I do say so myself, one of my skills is kind of being able to step back and say, right, I don't know anything. I've just started a business and I've just received this. Am I going to understand it? So I focus a lot on sort of the customer experience, because I believe that if we get that right, there'll be less back and forth, there'll be less problems, and actually everything will be nice and smooth. In terms of sort of day to day, a lot of my job revolves around making sure that client work is going out. So again, really high priority for me is keeping on top of sort of the management of work. In terms of one of the things I outsourced very early on, which I know a lot of people wouldn't have sort of been able to make that investment, was the marketing department. So I decided very early on, sort of from the very beginning, I was on social media doing videos. I knew I wanted to get out there, sort of show my face and show that people could know, like, and trust me, and that I could explain things in a non-scary way. But very quickly, it sort of can consume your day. And actually, for me, my mission was way bigger than posting on social media. And I really needed to focus on what are my clients getting so that they absolutely love us and keep recommending us. So my main thing was to get that off of my plate. So although I am still the face of many of the videos, it takes me a really short period of time to film those videos, because I have a great team behind me that get everything prepared behind the scenes. They prepare all the ideas, and it's all based around the strategy that we've come up with. So yeah, that's sort of the thing that I passed off quickest. And
Yeah.
although I have a big involvement in it and I still pull all the pieces together, I couldn't focus on that as much as I wanted to, so I delegated it.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it makes sense. Like I say, that is probably one of the things that takes up the most time, isn't it? It's the marketing, and the generation of new business as well. I think it's one of the most important elements, but it's also one of the most time consuming, and trying to balance that with your service in your current clients and everything else you've got going on, your own financials and your own forecasts.
Yeah.
You've got to, before you burn yourself out too quickly, you've got to know when and what to delegate, because you can't do everything on your own. Well, some people can, gardeners and, freelance,
Yeah.
slightly different business, but even they need help from accountants and other people, etc. So,
Yeah, I guess it depends the ambition. For me, I really wanted to do these things, but I know I couldn't do it just with myself, because I'm not prepared to completely burn myself out and therefore not be able to give my all to clients. And, I had to really say, right, do I want it? Yes. Okay, we'll go down this route.
yeah, absolutely. 100%. You do right. So, sorry, I'm just going to quickly check if I've got any last questions before I go on to my last one. So this is always a good question that I like to ask. If you were given a blank check, you could write whatever figure it was on there. What is the first thing that you would either invest or fix within the business to help you kind of get to that next goal? Would it, investing in more employees, or are you investing in marketing? Are you invested in tech development? What do you think is the most like kind of the priority for you if you're given like a blank check?
Oh, I love that. So my first initial answer straight to my head was people. So regardless of more people, it would also be investing in people in general. So the team that I do have, it would be making sure that, you know, we all get really good training. We're all sort of the best of our ability. And then when you bring on new team members, it's building them up. Obviously in the accounting industry, there's sort of accountancy qualifications. But I think further than that, a lot of it is around sort of soft skills, making sure that we're all sort of communicating really well with the clients. I think sometimes those soft skills are just the most important, being able to communicate and connect with people, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that's maybe the ambition. So as you begin to grow, you think you want to reinvest into upskilling your current team and potentially bringing on new members after that to kind of
Yeah.
rinse and repeat.
I think if you've got a happy team and you're all sort of learning and growing and doing your best, I think that's normally the best.
Absolutely. That's when the client gets the the best service,
Yeah.
because people enjoy coming into work. And I think that is half the battle, is if you've got a happy team that enjoy coming to work each day, it's just always going to deliver better results.
100%. I mean, in our industry, staff turnover is awful. I've
Really?
been very, very lucky because after 9 months of starting the business, I took on my first employee, and he's still with me to this date. And Ella, who's been on my team, has been with me not long after, so maybe 3
Amazing.
years now. So quite a long time. So
Brilliant.
my aim is always just, right, how do I retain these people, and how do
Yeah.
I then I think all of our ambition, none of us are perfect, and it's always just having the ambition to want to better ourselves and to grow and yeah, provide better for the client. And then yeah, certainly as we grow, it's to take on more staff, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Brilliant. Cool. So I always enjoy finishing on this question because I feel it's where people can take quite a bit of value from. So if you could give one piece of advice to an aspiring entrepreneur or someone just getting started on their business journey, what would it be and why? And take
Like,
time to think
I
about
feel like
that.
two are coming to my mind.
Well, feel free to leave them 2 bits. I'm sure they'll be grateful.
Well, the one that immediately always comes first to my mind is one that I struggle with myself, which is focus. Regularly, I have to say to myself, focus on this one thing, get it done and do it right. Because I don't know about you, but in the business world, there are a lot of distractions. There's so many things going on in just a day, sometimes an hour. A lot of things are going on. In my industry, a lot of things are changing constantly. And sometimes it's just a case of, right, let's focus on this, get it right, and get it sorted. So focus is one big thing. Now, I know it's easy to say just focus, but I think it's just being intentional and saying, today I'm going to only focus on this, and this, and I'm going to get them done to a good standard. But also knowing where you want to get. When I talk about focus, it's very much, this is what we're trying to achieve. Again, it just sets your mind up so that you sort of are aiming for that one thing. What was the other thing I was going to say now? What was the question again?
So it was, if you could give one piece of advice to aspiring entrepreneurs or people just getting started in their business journey, what would it be and why? Take your time, think as much as you want.
I can't remember what I was going to say.
Anything around cash flow or strategy, planning?
Oh, it was actually around cash flow. So the one piece of advice I would give would be, basically it is around cash flow, is making sure that when you get more money, you're not spending more money, if that makes sense. It's
Yep.
very easy to, start to grow and think everything's going great, and then just start to, basically you increase your expenses at a rapid rate, and it just keeps going and snowballing, and it actually becomes where a lot of businesses just become out of control. It's a case of making sure that they understand cash flow management well, and that they are on top of things and not spending just for the sake of it. Because it's that simple thing, isn't it, where they say, if you become a millionaire and then they suddenly spend all the money, actually that I see it happening in business. People make double the amount and then they spend double the amount.
Yeah.
So it's just keeping an eye on those profit margins still, and also preparing for when we're going to go down, because that is business. That's what happens. So it's being prepared for that and not being naive to, oh, there's loads of money in my bank. Actually, this is how business flows, and actually we need to be prepared for when there's not so much money in the bank, or when that bill does
Absolutely.
come along. So yeah, that's my bit of advice.
Brilliant. Well, Lucy, I think that's a perfect place to end the podcast. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And it's been great hearing all about Simplex and your journey so far. And hopefully we'll get to have another conversation again in the future and see what you're up to then.
Thank you for
But yeah,
having me.
just want to say thank you very much. Not a problem. Thank you, Lucy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.